Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm going to be reacting to a video from Aperture. It's called The Dead Internet Theory. I'll put a link in the description below. Make sure you go over there and subscribe to their channel. The Dead Internet Theory is something that I've been sort of mulling around in my brain for the last little while, and I did talk a little bit about it in the video that I reacted to with Lex Friedman, and they were basically talking about AI and simulation theory. Make sure you go and watch that video too. It's a little bit older at this point now. It's kind of hard to believe that I can say that that's an older video. But I do want to say thank you to everybody that has subscribed. Thank you to everybody that has left a comment or a like or dislike, even. It's totally fine. Something to see where I don't have any social media whatsoever, basically, except for YouTube. And that's all I basically use. So I'm very, very happy with how the channel's doing. But anyways, enough rambling. I did that enough in this video. Let's just get to the video.
The internet is dead and we are the killers.
Definitely. AI and bots and stuff have pretty much taken over all of the internet.
Truth doesn't really exist online anymore.
Nope.
Bots have swamped social media with misinformation and...
How much do I hate the word misinformation? What I hate more? Disinformation.
The web pages we surf today
Ridiculous.
are almost entirely generated by AI. Even YouTube is flooded with channels completely run by AI with zero creative input from humans. Every single...
I actually did a reaction video to a channel, and then I come to realize that the channel is actually AI generated. And the reason that I could tell was they were saying words wrong throughout the whole video. And I'm like, that's weird. Why would that? That's a very easy, like Gomez. If you see the word Gomez, Gomez, you would say Gomez. You wouldn't say Gomes. Nobody has ever said Gomes when they saw that word. All right, let's go.
All day, less and less of the content we consume is created by humans. And what's even worse is that all of it is being recycled back into a system that we have very little control over, leaving the internet a shell of what it once was. Scrolling through social media has become an isolated, empty, and fruitless activity. But how exactly did we get here, and is it too late?
Yes, that's why I don't have social media.
To revive it?
Because it is meaningless. It is pointless. There is no good comes from social media, no matter what side of the aisle you're on.
Military war, but a technological battle during the Cold War between the United States and the Soviet Union. American researchers to develop a way of sharing data and programs through a global dispersed network beginning in the early 1960s. The earliest version of the internet created between two universities, the University of California and Stanford. Simple messages could be communicated between them, but it was nothing like what we have today. Throughout the 1970s, though, that network continued spreading via the use of phone lines. In 1983, there were only 500 computer hosts connected. Within 5 years, that reached 100,000, rolling out to increasingly more countries. Then everything...
93 was when I got internet for the first time, I believe it was.
Creation of the World Wide Web. The World Wide Web was a simple concept. It was a network of...
And it was all chat rooms. It's all message boards and stuff.
Hypertext documents accessed with a program called a browser. By the mid-1990s, it had moved from scientists and governments into the realm of public consumption. The birth of the internet was celebrated as a revolutionary force. With the free transfer and democracy of information, power could be put back in the hands of the people. The borders of regulation and nationalism would be transcended, creating a new age of society.
And that was the hope at the time. And unfortunately, you see now the bots and stuff, AI and everything is flooding. Now you don't know what's true anymore. You don't know what's real anymore. And then there was a certain point with the internet where you did know what was true and what was not true. Even at that time, maybe we were naive then. It's possible, but I think with the freedom of sharing information, I think we did have more knowledge then than we do now. Now we are saturated with scrolling and recommendations based on an algorithm and based on AI.
If you needed a media or a political platform to air your views, everyone could become their own publisher, something that wasn't possible.
This was after the invention of a smartphone.
Before. There was
Not
only
then.
One problem: greed. As the years turned to decades, the internet followed a familiar path, the same one almost every other important technological innovation did before and will keep doing. Dozens of internet service providers had emerged, but they slowly began merging into just a few big companies, leaving consumers with no real choice. Just like with radio a century earlier, thousands of different companies were slowly bought or priced out of the market. This was true for both the infrastructure and the web real estate. By 2001, when the dot-com bubble popped, The top 10 websites made up 31% of page views in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
By 2006, that number climbed to 40% and then 75% in 2010. At the same time, iPhones and smart
Because whatever's easier.
devices changed our relationship with the internet. Browsing the World Wide Web became less common as people shifted to semi-closed applications, and in 2010, these applications accounted for less than a quarter of internet traffic. Today, it's 90%. Keeping users inside the confines of applications made advertising more effective. Having created an entirely new ecosystem, Apple was on its way to becoming one of the biggest companies in the world thanks to this closed system. After the dot-com bubble popped, only 5 tech companies were able to survive and thrive: Google, Amazon, Apple, Facebook, and Microsoft.
Mm-hmm.
The big 5 are now virtually impossible.
There was others that hung on for a little while too, like Yahoo was around for a little while, but there was a few other ones that they eventually just fell off though. I think AOL is still running too.
To avoid on the internet,
Crazy.
whether through advertising, e-commerce,
AOL
or
was
cloud computing,
horrible,
the
man.
websites depend. This tech dominance has permanently changed our society, and as these industry giants compete in a technological arms race.
And not to date myself too much, even though I already have in this video, I remember when we got our internet provider, we were only allowed a certain amount of data during the day for a flat fee. I think at the time it was $85. I want to say it was $85 a month, $65 a month, somewhere's in there, Canadian. It's like $10 US. And before 7 p.m., we were allowed a small amount of data. If we went over that data, actually, I don't think it was data. I think it was time, potentially. I think it was dictated by time. So if we spent more than an hour a day before 7 p.m. and after 5 a.m., I think it was, we would get charged per minute or something like that. And then after 7 p.m., it was between 7 and 11. It was, you could spend more time, I think, but you had a hard time connecting. I can't remember exactly. I think between 7 and 11, it was free, but it was limited somehow. And I can't remember how the limit was. Not free, but I mean, you still paid the monthly subscription. Started way back then. And then after 11 p.m., it was completely free. So from 11 p.m. till 5 a.m., it was totally free. So that was how the internet worked then.
For the next big web.
Congratulations, I'm old.
Weapon to sell consumers, that being artificial intelligence, the last vestiges of a utopian internet could be lost. Connection and truth.
And you will be someday too.
Nearly 5.5 billion people have access to the internet, and the average user spends 6 hours a day online. It's by far the world's biggest market, and unfortunately, the most valuable commodity in that market is your attention.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you're the commodity that companies are trying to sell now.
Views, likes, and reviews are worth their weight in gold.
With all of your information.
And this has led to a huge shady marketplace for all kinds of engagement. Money has turned the internet into a tiered system, ripe for exploitation. Creating a successful channel or social media profile can be a lucrative long-term investment. With a few clicks and dollars, anyone can buy thousands of Spotify streams, Instagram likes, or YouTube views. How can companies offer these services? Well, employing thousands of people to click on posts manually would be far too expensive. Instead, they use bots, automated, unattended software.
Mm-hmm.
When set on a target, they artificially engage with the post, boost it in the rankings, and attract more attention. Websites do their best to scrub bots out, but it's almost impossible to remove them all.
And if you watch the video that I posted the other day about weird YouTube channels, there's a couple of them now. When I'm doing this and talking about this dead internet theory, it makes me wonder if those channels weren't designed to help the AI determine what videos to boost based just on the thumbnail, maybe based on the content as well. I did hear a rumor that the more links you post in a description, the higher you get boosted. So I might actually try this with this video. So if you guys see a whole bunch of links down below, I'll be trying something. So
over the last 6 years, Meta deactivated over 27 billion fake accounts.
50, yeah, so there's probably about 54 billion.
Some believe it's already too late to take action against bots. They think we may have reached a dark tipping point.
Oh yes, we're way past, we've tipped over.
The dead internet theory proposes that we're living in a...
The dead internet theory started in is now considered to have started in 2016, whether or not it was discovered in 2019. Hearing that it started either in 2015 or 2016, and potentially even had started with the advent of smartphones in 2006.
In a dystopian ghost town, to the theory something changed around 2016. The internet had become so saturated by automated content.
Widespread adoption of smartphones. I think it started in 2012. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I believe it started in 2012. Was more people, because I remember in 2006 I didn't have a smartphone. I didn't have one until it was like 2008, 2010, somewhere's in there is when I got my first smartphone.
That having genuine human-to-human interaction was rare, if not impossible. Surfing the web was like driving alone and only passing automated vehicles on the road.
Mm-hmm.
The theory's original.
I've said this many times. Anytime you Google something anymore, you're not getting the results of what you're searching for. You're getting what the results, the AI or the bots, the web crawlers, whatever they think you want to see.
Admitted that it sounded conspiratorial.
That's a cognitive bias.
A feeling that something was
that's bad.
There was an emptiness online.
It should be factual.
In the early 2000s. Images, conversations, and memes all began to resemble one another while
I remember being able to search online with Netscape Navigator, Windows 3, I think it was 3.1, Windows 3.1, I think. I remember being able to search and you would have hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of web pages to go through, and they were all different. And now if you scroll through, if you type anything, you'll probably have 5 news stations, all the same station. Like for example, in Canada, all CTV news or all CBC news, you'll have 5 results, basically all the same thing. It depends on what you search for. Obviously, if it's remotely controversial in any way, it's probably been mentioned on the news, so that's why they get boosted.
Exciting now.
And as is in Canada right now, the news is boosted tremendously through the algorithm, because it was passed into law with Bill, I think it was 21 or something. I can't remember exactly what it was. The news is boosted more now than ever in Canada on Google results, on search results, anywheres.
Sanitized. This was all supposedly all carefully curated to keep control of culture and political power, and most of all, to make sure that the general population stays in line.
At some point, the government reversed it.
Until 2022, when a grand unveiling brought the issue of bots to global attention. On November 30th, 2022, the world was introduced to ChatGPT. Built on a large language model that processes gigantic data sets and forms relationships between ideas, it is the most advanced form of artificial intelligence ever to exist. For decades, computers have been much more powerful than humans
but they were working on it for a lot longer than that.
Mathematical calculation. The question that divided computer scientists and philosophers was whether or not computers could ever transition into a kind of general intelligence.
They will eventually.
Turing asked this question in 1950. He developed the Turing test as a way to determine whether a machine was thinking. The test was simple. For a computer to pass, it has to fool a human into thinking they're talking with another human.
Yep.
Last year, ChatGPT-4 became one of the first to pass the Turing test.
The thing is, the issue with the Turing test is if you give it to people that have been born into this society now where smartphones and everything is way more prevalent, and AI and bots are way more prevalent, they have a lesser ability to determine whether or not what they are seeing is real or not, because they're being told, I know I'm on my soapbox here or whatever, but they're being told that everything that they see online is true. That's never been the case, and it will never be the case, unfortunately. I think it might have been for a small period of time, but I think that quickly dissolved. If you have a group of people that are trying to determine if what they're interacting with is human or not, those people will have a limited capacity to actually determine whether or not what they're speaking to is actually human or not. It goes back to one of the things that I've said. I don't know if I've said it in a previous video, but it's something that I've talked about before, where if you watch the movie, I think it was Dawn of Justice League, where they covered Henry Cavill's mouth where he had a mustache. He wasn't allowed to shave for some reason. And they covered it with CGI. There were people that said that they could not tell. And for me, the moment that I saw it, I was like, something's wrong there. But there are people legitimately that could not tell that it was fake. You take that to a larger degree, the further away you are from the birth of the internet and the internet in its infancy, the closer you get to not being able to determine what's reality and what's not, or what is reality and what isn't reality.
Brought a machine to life, and suddenly the dead.
So I question the validity of the Turing test that was done with ChatGPT 4.
Internet theory became not just a conspiracy,
And especially if it's just through text. It is much harder to tell just through text alone.
but a likely future.
It would depend on how it was
Distinguish between
tested.
humans and AI anymore. Who can we trust?
The people in your neighborhood.
Consider this. 49.6% of all internet traffic in 2023 came from bots. Even more daunting is that things are likely to get much
It's way, way higher than that.
worse. Now that search engines have started to integrate AI technology like ChatGPT into their services, the flaws have never been more clear. Tech giants are rushing products to the market to compete with each other for supremacy. In the process, there have been some disastrous results. Google's entry into the world of AI, Gemini, told users that rocks are a source of vitamins. Astronauts who landed on the moon encountered cats. Backpacks are just as effective as parachutes when jumping out of a plane.
Again, as we get further away from the singularity event, I guess that is known as the birth of the internet, the more people are apt to believe the things that they see online.
These tech hallucinations come from them trying to piece together gigantic amounts of information that have been compressed.
Which is also why I think we have as heavy-handed censorship as we do.
And they do this with an algorithm that identifies the important components and interpolates the missing.
But as we go on, the more and more censorship that we have, the less and less information that gets put out there. And then the more likely that ChatGPT will be able to pass the Turing test and have even better results. Because if you limit the amount of information that ChatGPT has to go through, if you homogenize all the information that ChatGPT has to go through, you end up with something that resembles more human, because that is all you see online. Right? If you assume that any given website has been created by somebody, ChatGPT can go through and recreate that entire website based on the information that's available to it, which would be censored by whatever restrictions are in place, governments or whatever, platform censorship and stuff like that. They have less and less stuff to go through. So it becomes more and more human. When there's a vast amount of data, obviously, as you just saw, they were saying that rocks are a source of vitamins. And they essentially are a source of vitamins, or minerals, I suppose, but you don't eat them. Don't eat rocks, kids.
Anything creative is usually generated using a composition or altered version of
I mean, if you eat it once, you'll never eat it again. Just don't do it.
work that has already been created by humans. Artwork and music online are being used as training data for artificial intelligence, leading to many arguing that workers are being exploited. Hundreds of artists backed by the nonprofit Artists' Rights Alliance have signed an open letter seeking to prevent AI from sabotaging and undermining artists. On top of that, these models don't know how to judge whether or not a source is trustworthy.
Right.
Instead, they gravitate towards popular responses.
Right. So they gravitate to what is more readily available, which means if your government is censoring all of the information, whatever the government determines to be the best answer that they want you to see, the AI or the Chat GPT will push you towards that direction.
Which can range from reliable academic journals to a meme made by a 17.
It really is terrifying when you really get down to the weeds of it. It's pretty terrifying.
18-year-old to gain Reddit karma. One individual created a fake website designed purely to trap crawlers. These are automated programs commonly used by search engines to systematically download the contents of web pages. They realized that the GPT bot was collecting around 3 million pages from their sites every day. This was a small window into the quality of data that is being scraped by chatbot AIs and forming their responses, which isn't exactly a positive sign. What's even worse is that because so much of the internet is already generative AI, the next generation of AI will use content created by the previous generations as training datasets, and with each passing generation, the work these AI tools produce will continue to be less and less human.
And which also probably means less and less true. It's AI learning from AI, learning from AI.
Search results will be filled with AI-generated content, and finding trustworthy sources will become even more difficult. The word robot was first used in a 1920 Czech science fiction play called Rossum's Universal Robot. It comes from the Czech word robota, which loosely translates to slave. This was a good description of mechanical robots used in production. They were simply tools like a hammer or a calculator. As robots moved into the digital world, though, the relationship between master and slave has been blurred. Online media is already largely controlled by artificial intelligence. Powerful automated programs determine whether content succeeds or fails.
Yep.
Advertisers pay millions for professionals to crack the code of mysterious algorithms. Because they're constantly changing, these programs essentially create a secretive inner functionality process not even known to those who design it. Left at the mercy of pattern recognizing supercomputers, our behavior has been shaped around them. Social media sites have shifted from authentic social engagement to prioritizing consumption-driven models. As long as they can keep you online, it's good for business.
Yep.
While their algorithm
Therefore, the solution is to get offline. Unfortunately, there's so much of the stuff now that is online. It's an inevitable conclusion that at some point we'll hit another singularity.
access unimaginably large datasets to create profiles of you as a consumer, categorizing your online behavior to create personalized ads. All it takes is a single click to fill your feed with a certain subject, pulling you in to consume more. The system rewards copycats and imitators who observe successful content, and they have no choice. To survive, online creators, influencers, and marketers must constantly seek
You have to homogenize. Yep.
In the end, even the humans who create are forced to create generic, unoriginal content. And there's a reason people are complaining about the Mr. Beastification of YouTube. But who can you blame? When a creator feels like the only way they can succeed is to appease the almighty algorithm and they see how well Jimmy Donaldson does that,
Yep.
why shouldn't they copy him? As Friedrich Nietzsche argued, people tend to follow the herd for protection, afraid to show authenticity and confront truth. With this comes
True.
nihilism, where the herd drifts aimlessly without meaning or certainty. That is reflected in the algorithm. The content we consume and perpetuate leaves us in an infinite cycle of emptiness. Our aesthetics and values are now curated by non-human forces. So is our culture still ours? Are humans the ones giving the orders, or has technology become our master?
Mhm.
Commercialization of the internet, the concentration of a handful of
If it hasn't already, it is damn close to becoming our master, because we are definitely driven by the need to be online all the time, or by the demands of society to be online all the time.
companies and the creation of a quick but dangerously inaccurate generative tool have given us a technology that is manipulating our deepest weaknesses. The emergence of bot armies offers a shortcut for business development.
They have learned how to generate an algorithm that gets the maximum amount of dollars out of all of us, which is one of the reasons why I don't use social media. I still have my vices, but I had these vices prior to the internet. I think people learned from Nintendo that if you create artificial scarcity that people and then generate buzz about it online, you can create massive amounts of sales.
AI offers a shortcut to creativity for low-quality content production. Powerful algorithms have fueled our addiction to short-form content.
Yep.
Has the internet become a carefully constructed...
I don't think that's true necessarily. I think that's one of the reasons why podcasts are a primary source of entertainment for a lot of people, and why podcasts tend to get a lot more view length per video than other things.
reality we've all been presented with. Not to the extent that the dead internet theory describes, but as artificial intelligence spreads through the internet, our sense of reality is being seriously shaken. It's a wake-up call to change course before it's too late.
I think it's already too late. I think we are heading towards another singularity, unfortunately. There would be the drastic turn that would need to be taken to have that not happen is for everybody to get offline simultaneously, which means advertisers, money, all that stuff would have to disappear, and it won't, unfortunately. It is a self-perpetuating cycle. We're online, so the advertisers are online. They're spending money online, which forces us to be online still. If the thing is, if everybody decided all at once to get off of the internet, at some point that the advertisers would have to figure out another way. Because if you think about how advertiser traffic was run back in the 60s and 70s, it was billboards. Why? Because you would drive by the same billboard every single day and they would advertise on it, and you would say, hey, there's a new shaving cream. Hey, there's a new burger at McDonald's, or whatever it was. That's how they advertise you, because it was through repetition.
To keep the internet alive, we need the courage to break away from the herd. Acknowledge that the current systems aren't working, and that humanity is more important than profit. If you like the videos we make and would love to support us to make bigger and better projects, we just updated the Patreon.
Awesome.
Everyone who joins will get free access to our updated Discord server. Thanks for watching.
Awesome. What an awesome video. Unfortunately, I made a 13-minute reaction video into like probably half an hour by the time all is said and done. We all need to be offline more than we are now, and unfortunately I think that we won't be. I think we are heading towards that singularity, as I mentioned, another one, since at least the internet, since the singularity of the invention of the internet, and then potentially the invention of ChatGPT or AI in general would be the second one in whatever amount of time is left before the next one. If that doesn't change, we are headed for another one where you see the movie WALL-E, and everybody's just online, strapped in all the time, being fed constantly, and you're just strapped into a chair, and that image stays in my mind. Anyways, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys next time.